Welcome, everyone, and what a way to end the 2020 online Athens Women's Football Summit. My name is JP Dellacamera. I'm joined by the iconic Michelle Akers. Michelle, how are you today?
Great, JP. How are you?
Good, good. I have to look down at some notes because there's no way that anyone could memorize all of your great accomplishments, and I want the viewers to understand this, right? So, with the USA Women's National Team from 1985 to 2000, that's a brilliant 15-year career, 105 goals in 153 games. You won the 1991 Women's World Cup, known then as the Women's World Championship, 1999 Women's World Cup, 96 Olympic gold medal. 1991 Women's World Championship in China, you scored 10 goals, won the Golden Boot, 5 goals in one game versus Taiwan, 2 goals in the final against Norway. Named the Female Player of the Century with Sun Wen back in 2000 and inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame in 2004. And I'm going to stop right there, Michelle, because I think we could do the whole hour.
Okay.
And I still wouldn't be done with the list of accomplishments. So welcome to the summit, first of all. And I want to take you back and our viewers and listeners back to 1985 when you started, when the women's game was nowhere near what it is today in terms of winning World Cups and the money that's spent on women's soccer or women's football. So take me back to 1985. The team is going to Italy for a tournament under head coach Mike Ryan. What does that scene like?
Gosh, what is the scene like? Well, for me, let me see, how old was I? It was the summer of my freshman year at University of Central Florida as a college player. And you know, semi-student there. And we got
athlete.
Yes, exactly. We, you get a letter in the mail from US Soccer. You are invited too. And so these letters kind of had been coming out. Congratulations, you made the national team for a long time. But it was like I didn't know what it was, and there was nothing involved in it. So this one actually, you got invited to, the U.S. Women's National Team training camp in New York. So I was like, woohoo! Went there. I was just pumped to play. So I didn't really know what the USA team was, what a U.S. Women's National Team was. But I made the team. There's lots of just incredibly powerful people there who are the core, the DNA of this current U.S. Women's National Team. They were at that camp in New York, and then we went to. Mike Ryan was the first ever Women's National Team coach. He was from Seattle area, so that's why it was a split of Northwest players and East Coasters and a couple of Midwesterners thrown in. Went to Jesolo, Italy. Yeah, I still didn't, the hugeness of that opportunity or privilege of playing for the USA hadn't dawned on me until Mike Ryan sat us down on the field. Actually, he made us all stand in a line and said, "You guys don't get it that you're playing for the USA. You don't understand what an honor this is. Now sing the national anthem." So he started shouting it out, and we were like, "Oh, say, can you?" Like looking at each other. But then he's like, "Shout it out!" So then that was like, oh my gosh, this is what it's about. I finally got it. We lost our first game. And then we won our second game, but playing that first game, losing, it was a real eye opener as to the fact, wow, these teams are way above us, and it would and so the next game we came, with our gloves on, so to speak, kind of a little more savvy and understanding of the gamesmanship and what we would need to do to be better. And so that's kind of how we progressed over the tournament.
1985, Michelle, what were the conditions like in terms of, uniforms, the way you were treated, your travel, your hotel? I know it's much different today, but what was it like back in 85 when the money really wasn't there?
Well, so I was just happy to be there. So they could have, the fact I was getting like uniform that was 2 sizes too big that said USA, and then we had to sew stuff on or that I had to bring my own cleats and make sure they were Adidas to play for that team. I didn't think twice about that at the time. And oh my gosh, I had a plane ticket. I could have sat in the toilet area and been happy just to be going. And then in Yesalo, what a great place that is. We stayed. My memory of it is like a really nice resort hotel, on the beach, which it was a topless beach. So our staff was incredibly pumped about that. I thought it was fantastic. We're playing against other countries, and it was a really hard tournament. And so I enjoyed it. Later, once I started understanding more of what a U.S. women's national team is, what a national team is, what the opportunities were there for men, how they were treated, and then the matching that up as our schedule increased, that's when the comparison came. That's when I started realizing, well, there's quite a disparity here, So yeah, at first we didn't get much, and it's a far cry from even the college programs and a lot of the club programs nowadays. Very different.
Well, things changed, right, in 1991, because you guys must have upped the ante because you were good in 91. You could say you were great in 1991. You had the triple-edged sword with yourself, Karen Gabara, and April Heinrichs. You did well.
Yeah.
You win that tournament, but had to be disappointing when you came back, because the tournament was in China.
Yeah.
Very little television coverage, very little media coverage, and when you come back home, it's not as big a deal, I guess, here as it was to you guys over there.
Yeah. Leading up to that, it was announced that there's the CONCACAF qualifying tournament in Haiti. And so we went to Haiti and played. It was still like war-torn there. So that was an experience. A great experience, but also an experience. So we won that. And then we were off to China for the World Cup. And I was probably just learning what in the world a World Cup was, to be honest. We went to that. And Anson was our coach then. Mike Ryan was our first coach in 85, and then 86, Anson took over. And really, it was Anson's vision that launched it. He planted the seed. His vision was we will be the best in the world. We're going to be the best in the world. And without any funding, without any schedule, this was Anson's vision. I don't know where he got it from, but it was magic, and we believed in it, and we went there, and I knew we were going to win. And so Anson put together that team with knowing, that he's a great judge of talent. He's a great communicator, motivator, but he also we played our style, what we were good at, against these teams. And, it worked. Our strategy was, hey, be tough as nails, work harder than everyone else, score more goals than they do, and we will win. That was our World Cup strategy.
Yeah, that was good. It did work.
It worked.
Right? Yeah, it worked.
Yes.
Things slowed down a little bit, Michelle, after that, because U.S. Soccer was really concerned, and they focused all of their efforts on the 1994 Men's World Cup, which they were hosting. So things didn't heat up again until, I would say, that 1995 Women's World Cup. That was my first time with the women's national team. The World Cup was in Sweden then, and my thoughts on it were, it was a lovely country. People were fantastic, but you wouldn't know a World Cup was being held there. Outside of the final, which the U.S. didn't get to, and one other stadium in Helsingborg, you were playing in high school stadiums. That's the best way to describe it. Hundreds in the stands, certainly not thousands, and no real media awareness of that tournament. And I felt bad for you guys, because I could see the hard work you put in. You worked as hard as the men did, in pursuing your craft, and yet, you know, it didn't seem like you got the respect there. How did you feel about that 95
Yeah.
Women's World Cup?
Well, you know, after winning the 91, you mentioned, you're asked, what was that like coming back? And you were right. It was largely an unknown thing, that what we had done. So, you know, coming home from that, there was 3 people in the airport. One was Bora, who came, and he knew how big it was, right? And, you know, he's got the big head of asses. But he was so, like, I can complain about the hair thing or make fun of anybody about the hair. But anyway, he came, and that was my first time really getting to talk to him. But then there was 2 reporters. So that's when it started dawning on me, oh, this is totally different. And then that lead up to that 95 World Cup, I was at the 94 World Cup for the men in Orlando, and then in LA. And that's going from that experience to the 95 World Cup was so disappointing. No fault to the Swedes or you know, anyone who was organizing that. It just was an uphill project, right? There's a lot to do. So yeah, it was disappointing though, because that's really, for me, the first time the side by side those World Cups were so, you know, obvious, the disparity. So from then on, and we lost too, which was, and I got injured in that World Cup on the first game.
First game.
Not a great World Cup for me. The Norwegians, though, they won, so
they loved
I'm sure
it.
they had a different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me share this with the viewers to let them know how far the women's game has come. Because back in 1995, I was working for a company as a freelancer. It was Grand Slam Sports. They signed a deal with ESPN, and it was a landmark deal in the sense that the women were now going to get covered. You know, they were on ESPN. It was on a big network, right? But it was only 6 games total. That was it. And they were going to follow the U.S. team. So when the U.S. team lost, and that meant a 3rd place game, no final, ESPN had a decision to make. There was no money in the budget to say, well, we'll take the U.S. 3rd place game and we'll do the final. So they decided not to do the final. And the year before, at that Men's World Cup, ESPN televised every game. Not only that, but there was a radio deal in place as well, where all of the games were on radio too. So that was different. And I think that finally, Michelle, and we'll talk more about this, the 1999 Women's World Cup was obviously the breakthrough, right? Because you're playing in the major stadiums, you're packing the houses, standing room only at the Rose Bowl, television audiences were setting records all over the place, right? So at what time, though, did you know that 99 here in our country could be like 94 was on the men's side? When did you have that sense?
Well, when we lost that World Cup in 95, we came home, and 96, the Olympics happened. So, you know, women's soccer wasn't in the Olympics prior to that. So 96 was, wow, okay, we lost, but and we were so excited to take that loss and revenge, you know, to the Norwegians and everyone who like stepped on the field against us. So that Olympics was really huge for the U.S. women's national team, because it was the Olympics. It was national, international coverage. The fans really connected with us, and then we won the gold medal. And so all these personalities were exposed. You know, Mia and Brandy and Foudy, and I mean, so many of them, and not only that, corporately, wow, you know. So I think there were a lot of people who were at that Olympics, and part of that who said, wow, look at this product, what we have, and let's put a package together that can make an incredible World Cup for these women. Marla Messing was one of those people who did that. And so that's what they did. So there was a huge focus, even for us as players, to participate in making that tournament, making that World Cup a success. So I think in part, all of those conditions, losing that 95 World Cup and then winning the gold, and then this breakthrough event, which set us up to be successful in the 99 World Cup.
Yeah, I don't know who made the original decision. It was probably a group effort, but Marlon Messing was probably one of them. Alan Rothenberg was another.
Yeah.
But the original plan was to play in smaller stadiums, like high school and college stadiums. And then someone had that vision to say, Americans are big time sports people. They love the big games, whether it's Olympics or World Cups, and they will come out, whether it's women or men. I'm not sure if anyone would have predicted that the Rose Bowl would sell out, but it sure did. So whoever made that decision and when they made that decision, I think it was a courageous move, but time proved them to be correct.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes I'm like, what? Do I even am I even aware of the world around me at times? Because people ask me, what did you expect? And of course, I expected them to be all sold out. I expected that. To not have it would have been like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So to have that happen to me, with that expectation, when you walk out on the field, all these fans are there, but to most people, that wasn't the expectation at all. It was, nail biting agony of concern and worry. God help me, or please, let's sell out at least half a stadium. And everyone was packed, and we won. So everything kind of stacked up in the best way possible to enable that, the outcome of that tournament to be so great.
Someone asked me before the tournament started, Michelle, what would be a successful tournament? And I said, the U.S. has to get to the final. I said, for interest, like for ticket sales, for fan interest, for media interest, for television ratings, they have to get to the final. They don't have to win it for it to be a success. That would be icing on the cake. That's what I said before it started. But when we got to the final, somebody asked me the same question, and I said, no, now they have to win it. Not for me. To me, it was a huge success. Didn't matter if China won that game 4-0. To me, it was a huge success because of the numbers, the eyeballs, David Letterman's exposure, all of that, right? But I still felt that there would be a lot of people that would be disappointed by that. And I can only imagine the pressure on all of you, because you're playing in your own country. You're still, living your own lives. You've got family to worry about, tickets to worry about. Everybody wanted tickets, and everybody expected now you to win. So what was that pressure like for you and your teammates as athletes?
No pressure at all. I mean, that's
really?
how I did not have one bit of pressure about that. I expected it. I expected this, the stadiums to be filled, and I knew we would win. And this is where we wanted to be. And my team, that team, that staff, all those people, they're just badass. JP, they work harder than anybody else. They were tougher than anybody else. And so I just, had that knowing inside, and not naive and maybe not, but so I didn't feel one bit of pressure, because it's exactly where I wanted to be, and I was there with the people I wanted to be with. And so, not saying that others didn't feel that whole World Cup experience differently, because everyone did. I mean, some people are throwing up before games, right? So I don't know. I just kind of saw it as, I can't wait to get out there. This is the best. This is exactly where I want to be. I've worked hard, and the other teams get out of our way.
Yeah,
so
let's talk about that game, because over time, right, when 10 years goes by or 20 years goes by, everyone has different memories, right? But if you ask the average person, they remember what they remember the most. Well, they definitely remember Chastain's goal and the celebration, right? That's number one. But what a lot of people don't talk about are these things off the top of my head. Scurry with the penalty kicks, Christine Lilly clearing a ball off the line, how tough China was, how that was a scoreless game, how that could have gone to either
Yes.
team, how it went to penalty kicks, and how maybe the greatest player of all time had to watch penalty kicks from where were you when you were injured?
Oh,
In a
I was
small
like, oh,
ambulance?
who was
Where
the
were
greatest
you?
player of all time? I was like,
You.
was like Pele out there? Or,
No, it was you.
okay, thank you. But I was so in the last minute of regulation, there was a corner or a cross into the box, and I was trying to clear it out with my head, and then Bry came over the top of me, boom, and got the ball and my head. So I was down for the count. They took me under the stadium, and I was in a trauma room, and they had IVs, so I was out of it until the very second when Brandy literally, touched the ball with her foot and put it in the back of the net. I saw it from a table immersed in ice and IVs, and there was like a tiny TV like this big in the corner, and I saw it. So I missed a lot of it. But yeah, it's funny kind of looking back or hearing people commenting about it, because it sounds like we totally dominated, but we didn't. It was a dog fight, and that's why I knew we would win, because every millimeter counts, and we don't give up a millimeter. And so I knew we would. The philosophy for us was, push, 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 and never give up anything, and contest everything, give everything, and along the way we will wear down anybody who dares to compete against us. And that's what happened. It just went, my God, into PKs, and was like the most dramatic thing. And Bry had to make amazing save. Lily had to save one off the line, which is, all of that was training, and focus and performance individually, but also as a team, to put us in that moment to create an opportunity for someone to do something extraordinary. So that's why we won. That's why we won. It was this close to not, but that's why we did win.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much longer you would have played in that game, because at that point, what a lot of people may not remember, you've dealt with a lot of injuries. That was probably, we didn't call it a concussion back then, but I watched the replay again when I had to do a special on this earlier this year, and man, that was a big hit from Scurry. So that was probably a concussion back then. We just didn't call it that. I know you've had concussions in your career, but back then you were suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome, numerous surgeries.
Yeah.
Tell the story about your dislocated shoulder and how that happened during a World Cup. It was not in a game, as physical as they were, but I'll let you tell it.
Okay, so it was the last game of the first round, and I forget who we were playing, but Tony had benched some of us to rest us, and I can't remember who we played, but anyway, Tisha Venturini she scored a great goal, and she did one of her backflips on the field, which was always like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So I remember that. And then after we won, we were doing our victory lap, high-fiving, running, right? And high-fiving people, and somebody just grabbed my arm and pulled me into the air and dislocated my shoulder. And, if I could have removed my arm and beat that guy over the head with it, I would have. But I had to, on my way back to the doctor, our team doc, it went back in, thankfully. So that was, my dad said he saw it from the stadium, from the stands, and he said it was just awful, and he wanted to, I had to play the rest of the tournament with this shoulder. That was a bummer.
Yeah. At the end, Michelle, when you were literally knocked out of that World Cup final, it was 97-degree temperatures there. I don't know what the heat index was, but guaranteed it was well over 100 degrees, on the field. Was there a point there where, if that didn't happen, you're thinking to yourself, I hope we win in regulation, because I don't think I have another 30 minutes in me, or going to penalty kicks. Or did you think, what the hell, I can still do this?
I can still do this.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm a fighter.
You're a warrior.
I'm a fighter. And JP too, there's the times when I think, God help me, I can't get back after this run. And then I would hear Carla Overbeck, Akers, we need you. And then, suddenly there is like the energy of 12 armies inside me. And I'm like, ugh. So that's kind of, the team, that's what got you going. That's what kept me going under those kinds of circumstances. And absolutely, I would have, they would have had to drag me off, which they practically did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
So
they did.
It was definitely a concussion, though.
Yeah.
So, because I was out, and I don't remember much of what happened in between. Getting the punch and then walking into the locker rooms.
For those watching this summit, especially some of the younger girls that are watching this, that want to know maybe what it takes to become a Michelle Akers, or even close to Michelle Akers. I'm looking down for this too, because I want to make sure I'm reading this right. This is what you have overcome in your career: multiple knee operations. Multiple, in your case, means 30 surgeries, we were told, to your right knee.
Yeah.
8+ shoulder operations, plus concussion issues. I remember years ago asking you at one point, how many concussions you think you had, and you said you had no idea. Like, most people would have quit the game, any sport, but you persevered. So what was that? What is inside you that would make you do that? You would think somebody that gets 2 knee injuries, 2 knee surgeries, and they say, I'm done. It's a sign from up above that this is not for me. You went through like 30.
Yeah, and 30. It's 30 plus. I probably had 20 in that course of my career, and then they are still patching things up, trying to keep me going. Why did I do that? Why? I don't know. It makes me feel like, God, Michelle, have a little common sense.
You're the bionic woman.
At the same time, it's common sense isn't what gets you to that level. So there's a balance there. There's a line, and my mentality always was try. Okay, so my favorite player of all time is Christine Lilly, and
good choice.
For the USA, right?
Good choice.
I loved playing alongside her, and I just loved watching her. She inspired me so much. But one time she came in from training, and she was really frustrated. I'm like, what's wrong, Lil? She goes, Michelle, or call me Michelle Akers. Just so easy just to try. So that is my entire kind of mindset. And what I will share is, the measuring stick is, are you trying your best? And so how do you get to the U.S. women's national team? How do you achieve your personal potential, which may not be the U.S. women's national team, but maybe it's in a high school soccer player, or maybe not. How do you achieve your personal potential is the question. Will you try your best? Trying my best was doing just what you brought up. It was, can I still play? Can I find a way to be successful personally and contribute to my team and our overall success? And every time I tried, I did. So, if my right leg wasn't working, I played all lefty. So I played a lot of my career all lefty. So if I had failed at that, maybe I would have quit and retired. But I was, I put the effort in, and I tried, and I kept succeeding in contributing to my team and developing as a player. So that's kind of how I started to view the obstacles, like the injuries was, okay, well, how can I be successful in a different way? What door does this open up for me? by not having a right foot or having chronic fatigue, or in what way can I play differently that will make me more complete player. So that's why I did it. Looking back, would I have done it differently? Maybe so.
What was the final straw for you when you said, that's enough, when you retired in 2000? When did you know?
Yeah. So after that 99 World Cup, I had 5 surgeries on this shoulder from the fan to put that back together over 2 years. So in that first year, there was 99 World Cup and then 2000 Olympics. So I was trying to come back. I had 2 surgeries in 2000, and I had this like little T-Rex arm from all the surgeries. And, I had to have a knee reconstruction still. So, I always thought that I would just kind of hear this small voice inside go, okay, that's good, you're done. And so I was kind of waiting for that. So one day we were playing Canada somewhere in the US, and I was standing on the field and the ball had gone out of bounds, and I was like, I'm done. And I went in after the game and told our trainer, Gigi, I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm done. So told April Heinrichs, who was our coach, and then I was done. I literally flew from there to Georgia, and where my horses were being kept, and got on the back of a horse, and that was my dream, right? So that's how it ended. And I don't know. I just knew that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, you never looked back, right? You never thought maybe I could have played another year or 2, or no?
No, not the door just closed, and I knew it, and I was happy about it. So I haven't looked back, and in fact, I remember being surprised, like, gosh, why is everybody wanting to talk to me about this? Why am I having to do all these interviews? And I had to do all these interviews from this horse farm, this friend of mine, because I was shocked. So from then on, it's been about horses and going, giddy up off into the sunset, and being a mom, and so I haven't looked back. I don't have a soccer ball on my property. So
wow.
Yeah. So it's
that's
I love the game.
Little known fact, I would say.
Yeah, I do love the game. I don't regret a minute of it. I loved playing, but I love this other stuff more.
Yeah, we still have about 20 minutes here, so I do want to tell you that I want to talk more about the horses later. I want to go back to the soccer for a second, because when you first started, you said you or the team was behind everyone else in 1985. You get to a point where you win at 91. Disappointed that you lost in 95, win it again in 99, you're at the top of the world. And remember, at that point, that was a year after our U.S. men finished dead last at the 1998 World Cup. So you guys were a breath of fresh air for soccer in this country, and things were going well. And now you've got a little clout here, with U.S. soccer, because the men were a failure in 98. You guys were successful. You're making all kinds of money. And now things are looking up. But then you're winning Olympics, but 2003, even hosting it late stage because of China having to pull out because of SARS. You don't win it in 2003. 2007, don't win it. 2011, don't win it again till 2015, and then again in 2019. So that gap of going 3 World Cups without it, what do you think were the shortcomings there, or did the rest of the world, start to catch up at that point?
Yeah, I know. I was devastated that we weren't, winning like we had in the past. I remember being so upset. It was just really emotional, because that. I think everyone who plays on that team leaves something of themselves, and from the moment they retire, there's a part of them, their heart, still running around on that field. So when our team, my team, and I still call it my team, wasn't successful, it was like, it was I grieve about it. It was emotional. So what happened? I don't know. I think the rest of the world was definitely getting better. Increased opportunities, and quality of the environment to develop as players. But I think, we lost something on that USA team with mentality. There was a, kind of a lapse. And then for whatever reason, Jill Ellis is part of that whole kind of reconstruction, and ramping up of the kind of regaining the USA mentality and dominance, world dominance. So that 2015, I was there at that World Cup, and JP, I don't watch sports really. I'm not a watcher, but I watched the big games, and I actually went to Canada with my son to watch, and I was at that final, and I was crying. I was so happy. And then they, team has continued to kick ass since, and why I think it. I think losing is beneficial, and there's lessons and opportunities out of that. And I think that's also part of, maybe there was a new hunger or thirst to, get back to being the best. And maybe some of those players were younger and they were maturing. And so now they could handle those opportunities in that kind of environment. So I'm not sure. But I am, so proud of this team and excited because of, the stage that the entire world shares for, the women's game, and how, amazing it is, and how excited people are to watch and be a part of it. And so it's like this whole summit thing here. It just shows you, we're on our way. We've been taking those baby steps for a long time, and sometimes every once in a while you get a bigger leap, and that's what it's felt like over the last couple years. That actually, more opportunity is gained, more equality is being achieved, although we still have a ways to go.
Yeah, I want to talk about some of the other countries in a second too, but one of the things that was interesting about the 2019 Women's World Cup was that I want to say it was 12 players on the squad that were 30 years of age or older. And some of them maybe in the next Olympics, assuming we have them next year, may not make it, or the following World Cup because of age. But yet we continue to develop, these young players, right? Like when you're retiring, when Mia's retiring, when they're all retiring, along comes an Alex Morgan. Now comes a Rose Lavelle or a Mallory Pugh, or you can name 10 players, right? What do you see for the future? Because other countries are going to get better, but how does the U.S. stay on top of the world where they're competing all the time for World Cup titles?
Yeah, I think we just keep taking pages out of our history and present day that enable us to be successful, that have, and it's not necessarily the game plan or the playbook. It's more the philosophy. And we keep applying that while also looking around the rest of the world and seeing what are they doing that is so successful, or that we want to implement into our own game. And we keep stretching, we keep pushing ourselves. So I think that's part of it. A professional league, a very competitive, dynamic professional league is super important to develop players, and we are getting there. I mean, we have a solid league now, and it's every year it's getting better and better. And same with around the world. Now we have U.S. players going overseas, which is awesome.
It is.
So those players will continue to develop, and so I when I was a player, Anson and Tony were constantly finding ways to develop these younger players in with the veterans who had been there for years. Layer on layer, help them step onto the field as leaders one day, game changers in their own right. So, and that has happened for us. I can't help but think we have such a player pool here that, given the right circumstances and coaching and opportunities, you know, the depth of talent is kind of unlimited, right?
Yeah.
So for us, I think it's more, you know, getting to the point of understanding of how the rest of the world plays the game at that higher level. You know,
Yeah.
they have more experience. Their culture is all about it.
Yeah.
And then keeping our USA mentality, which separates us from everyone. And again, like the players are going to England, there's going to be other leagues that are extremely strong. I think take advantage of that, like the guys have done. I think it's great they go overseas. I did go overseas as a player, but I didn't get any money for it. But it's a necessary thing, and it's just going to make us better as a soccer country.
You know, one of the things that I enjoy when I go to World Cups on the women's side, Michelle, is watching how the progress has been from some of these other countries, like seeing the Netherlands get to the final last year. England was tremendous last year, and were it not for an Alyssa Nair penalty kick save, who knows what the outcome might have been, right? And to watch France play, and Japan over the years, and Germany and Sweden and Brazil, there's a lot of good countries playing at a very high level, right?
But I have a cat.
That's
sorry.
Okay. No, that's all right. I have two of them in this house, but they're leaving me alone here today. But I also struggle when I watch some of these other countries, the poorer countries, and you hear stories about how Argentina's players were using uniforms from years past, and with all the money that's on the Argentina men's side. And I'm not picking on Argentina. There's CONCACAF teams that don't seem to have the money, or the money's not given to the women. We need to do some things, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this, to bring more money into the women's game, so that some of these other countries that don't have the money can get better coaching, can have better conditions for the players, because there are good players that play in, you can name it, a couple hundred countries. There are good players, right? But they don't have the opportunity. They don't have the coaching. They don't have the uniforms. They can't travel the way others can do. And so they're at a disadvantage all the time. What can we do? What can FIFA do? What can we do to make things, it's never going to be more equal, right? US is always going to have more resources than maybe somebody else in CONCACAF, but how can we bridge that gap?
Yeah, it's a good question. I noticed the difference too. I think isn't it multifaceted. It's culture combined with it's culture. It's not really a combination of anything. I mean, and you know, we are in the US are still battling this. Why, you know, equality of opportunity, equality in marketing, equality in so many things, pay. It's if we're having a problem in America, which it's supposed to be equal, you know, of course I think it's a global issue, or a global challenge for girls, women, females to play in this sport that has been historically a male sport. So I think so. Australia, was it Australia that has decided they pay their men and women equally?
There are a few countries. They might be one. I thought Norway might have been one. There are a few of them now. Yeah.
Okay.
Not many.
Things like that pushes those
huge.
things push our country. They push other countries. Brazil, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. They are now, but give them another year, they're scary good. So I think when other men's teams invest into their women's teams, it makes a huge difference, and there's a ripple effect. You know, what's the saying where as the tide rises, as do all the ships. That's I think in part what needs to happen.
Yeah.
But also, platforms like this and being able to understand the disparity or the challenges, the communication about here, what can we do, what's happening, what other resources are out there. This is a game changer. So and getting people with huge profiles on board supporting the women's game, the female game, is also huge for the growth in the game. So, I think it's not going to take long, and yet it's going to take too long.
Yeah. England's a great example. They're certainly not a poor country. They're a great soccer nation, but they're a terrific example of what can be done, because we saw how good they were at the last World Cup. We've seen them make progress, and now they're investing money in their women's league, and they're bringing U.S. stars over and stars from other countries. Some of the bigger clubs that like a Manchester United or a Manchester City, are spending money now on the women's side. And I think if people see England doing that, then the other countries may follow suit. I think France was already doing it. I think Germany was already doing it. England is a big step up, and I think other countries, European and South American, could follow. I mean, there's no reason why Mexico should not be better than they are on the women's side, right? I mean, if they devote half of the money that they're spending on the men, but they are making progress, right? Because they do have their own professional league, and I think that's where it has to start, right? It has to start with an opportunity, and culture was part of it, right? There were a lot of people years ago that thought Mexican women shouldn't be playing soccer. That's how archaic is that? Same with Brazil, right? Same with Brazil.
Absolutely. Yes. I remember after '91 World Cup, I was sponsored by Umbro. Okay. So, and I got to work with Pele, who showed me a lot. He taught me a lot. But I went to Scotland, kind of to be an ambassador for the women's game. And I did this clinic, and after this clinic, which I learned that the girls weren't even allowed to play soccer in the schools at recess. And if they did, they were sent home. So that was in '91. And now it's changing so fast. But if you were already in that mindset, of why can't girls play? And I was out there doing this clinic and scoring all these goals on these boys in the goal and doing all this stuff. And I had no idea girls weren't supposed to be playing in that country. And so I don't even know how I made it home alive, although they were incredible and I had the best time there. I loved Scotland. But that's just an example of how far we have come, but why, it should, but yet why is it so difficult to change when the resources seem to be there in excess, for the men's side, and it just is a matter of, swaying the investment just a tiny bit to give these women a chance to play for their country and make their country proud.
Yeah, it's come a long way.
Yeah,
but it can go much farther, right?
Absolutely.
From 1985 when you started to now, tremendous progress, and we should be grateful for that. But we can do more, right?
Yeah, and this World Cup, that unfortunately we missed it for this last summer. But if we get it for this next summer, I think it's going to be amazing.
You mean on the men's side, right?
I mean, the men,
yeah. No, I think we've got a great group of young kids now that are going to be around for maybe 3 cycles. That's how young they are.
Yes. So it's going. I think for the U.S., it's going to keep getting better. But we have major challenges, and for the rest of the world, I think given the investment, we are in big trouble because they're already at this level, and so I think that's exciting because when you're challenged, you get better. You can
let's be optimistic. Let's be optimistic.
It is.
Hey, the time has flown by, but I do want to close with what you're doing now, because you said you have no soccer balls on your property. It's like an 8-acre ranch. So I would think that you have some room on your property, but
Yeah.
no soccer balls, and the soccer world hasn't heard as much from you as I'm sure they would like to. So tell us what fills your time. I know you have that passion for horses.
Yes. So I started rescuing horses and animals, gosh, 12 years ago. I'd always been in love with horses. I wanted to be. I read the Black Stallion books and was like, oh, that's going to be me. I'm going to have my own Black Stallion and be, riding off into the wilderness of Montana one day. So that was my dream. And then I fell into the rescue business, and I just love helping these animals who have been abused or abandoned, and they just need some care. And so that's what I've been doing. So I have a bunch of horses here, and of course, if you have property and rescue animals, all kinds of critters come your way. So I have goats and chickens, and I had a pig once. And so it's a nonprofit, it's a 501c3. And this I love this. So every day I wake up and I'm a mom too. So that's my other love. But I just
Cody,
love
right?
going down.
Your son?
Yeah, my
Cody?
son Cody's 15. God help me. He's got a learner's permit now. So everyone, just a warning, watch out.
Yeah.
And he's doing good though. But the horse stuff, I love riding them. I love taking care of them, and I learn from them every day. And it's challenging now because it's all based on donations and grants and foundation work. So with COVID happening, I'm getting tons of requests. Can you take my dog? Can you take my horse? And so it's always a challenge finding ways to help these people or help these animals be rehomed. So it's Michelle Akers Horse Rescue and Outreach. That's one of the things I do all day, every day. And
if people want to help you, what is the website that they can look up to see what you're doing and donate or help out in any way that they can?
Thanks, JP. It's michelleakers.org. And I'm also on Instagram and Twitter, and putting way too many pictures of my animals up there. So easy to find. And, I try to help other rescues as well, because we're all in trying at the bottom line, trying to do the same thing. So it's a big network of everyone helping everyone. So appreciate you asking me.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this. This has been great fun.
JP,
nice to catch up with
I was
you.
so excited. I told you, because we talked earlier, I was like, oh my gosh, JP, I haven't talked in so long. And I told you that I've always considered you a BFF of mine, even though you didn't even know that I thought of you that way. So BFF.
I didn't know.
Knuckles.
I didn't know until today, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you're the best. And so happy to be a part of this.
Thank you.
It's been a great event this whole week. And to do it with you is awesome.
Icing on the cake. We hope everyone enjoyed our online Athens Women's Football Summit, and let's do it again sometime. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, JP.